Xenia was fine even after the explosion, only receiving minor scratches. However, the same couldn't be said for Lim, as she was lying on the ground unconscious with a bleeding forehead. Xenia couldn't understand what happened, but she realized that she had to focus on escaping. However, she remembered how Lim had been really nice to her in the short time that she spent while captured, and she remembered Maou's words about humans never waking up from death. So she decided to check Lim's condition and treat her head injury before carrying her to safety. Although Xenia needed to quickly escape and hide from the authorities, she thought she couldn't return to Maou empty-handed. At the same time, Maou brought the television to Max after she found out what happened to the Bureau of Magic. Max wondered if it was a terrorist attack, while Maou asked if it was the building where Fred is working. Max confirmed it, but he also added that he would be fine as the explosion wouldn't be enough to kill him. Then Maou told him that she actually asked Xenia to investigate the Bureau of Magic. Max wondered if she was actually responsible for the explosion, but Maou thought that she had no reason to do that. And she also added that she didn't even ask her to actually go to the Bureau of Magic. However, they suddenly felt uneasy, as based on her personality, she might actually do it. To get rid of this thought, Max suggested that they watch a variety show instead. However, someone suddenly opened the apartment door. It was Xenia, and she was carrying Lim and one of the servers from the Bureau of Magic. And the duo could just look in disbelief. Lim woke up because of the nice smell of Maou's cooking. She was shocked when the first thing she saw was Maou, who was greeting her, concerned about her injuries. She was dumbfounded, as she had no idea who Maou was, but she suddenly touched her head because of the pain from her injury. Maou asked her if she was alright before saying that she had found her unconscious outside. Because of this, she remembered the explosion, but she couldn't understand why she was inside the apartment instead of the hospital. Lim thanked Maou for taking care of her. Then she realized that the apartment was familiar, and she asked if Maou was living alone. Maou answered that she was living with her husband, although he was still outside for work. Afterwards, Lim tried to excuse herself, as she wanted to return to work. Maou tried to stop her while showing her concern, but Lim insisted on going, so Maou started using her magic to manipulate her into staying. And because Lim had strong magical powers, she tried to make her subordinate. While still using her magic, Maou told her all the benefits if she decided to work under her. Lim was completely under her spell, but Max suddenly arrived and smacked Maou's head with a frying pan. Maou was in tears because of the pain, complaining that it was domestic violence, but Max ignored her, saying that it wasn't the time for her unethical contract. At the same time, Lim was still under Maou's spell, trying to sign the contract without realizing what was going on. After Lim recovered from the spell, the three apologized for Xenia's infiltration of the Bureau of Magic, and they explained that Xenia misunderstood Maou's order, so she ended up infiltrating their building. They also emphasized that Max had no involvement in the matter. However, Lim was more concerned that Max was living with two demons. So Maou made up a story that, since their king had passed away, she and Xenia were living in poverty and starvation without a shelter. But Max took pity on them and saved them from the streets. And because they were moved by Max's kindness, they decided to dedicate their lives to mankind. And they wanted to investigate the Bureau of Magic to learn about humans and their professions. Then Maou apologized for their mistake again, and Lim actually believed their story, which surprised Max, and he thought that she was too trusting. Afterwards, Lim asked if they were really not responsible for the explosion. Maou declared that she wouldn't let Xenia use something as dangerous as a bomb, while Xenia explained that she thought Lim's fire magic had ignited a gas, causing an explosion. But Lim explained that her fire magic is always under her control, so it wouldn't catch any sort of gas or oil on fire. Maou was impressed after hearing this, and she was determined to make Lim her subordinate again. And while Xenia was wondering who would have caused the explosion, she noticed that someone was calling on Lim's phone, so she remembered to return it to her. It was Fred. He immediately asked where she was, so she explained that she had lost consciousness because of the explosion, and that she was currently receiving treatment. However, Fred noticed that she wasn't at the hospital, and he asked where she was again. Max told her to say that she was in his apartment. Fred immediately asked her to pass the phone to Max. Fred asked him to explain why he was colluding with demons to cause the explosion in the Bureau of Magic. Max admitted that he was hanging out with demons, but he sternly denied that they were involved in the explosion. However, Fred refused to believe him, and he threatened Max that he would blame the explosion on them. Because of this, Max asked to meet up with him to explain everything. Fred agreed, saying that he would come to Max's place quickly. Max agreed, but he asked why he left in a hurry on his previous visit, even when he already sensed the demons. Because of this, Fred remembered what had happened, and the ghost also started talking to him through the phone. Fred was still afraid of the ghost, so he asked Max to meet him in a restaurant instead. Fred knew that Max wasn't involved in the explosion, but he still wants to meet him. At the same time, his phone started ringing again, and the phone screen reflected the ghost behind him, who was forcing him to answer the phone. Then the rescuers found him unconscious, frothing, and trembling. The rescuers couldn't understand how someone could sneak a bomb into the Bureau of Magic, but they were certain that things would get ugly if the Gamma Republic was really responsible for the attack. The other ministers were relieved that Grimm's was safe from the explosion, but Minister Franca could tell that it was just a scheme to start a war against Leo and his allies. The other ministers' stance on the matter was divided, although there were a few who still wanted an amicable agreement. Most of the ministers wanted an all-out war, but to avoid casualties on their side, they wanted Fred, who was also on par with Leo, to lead the attack, and they thought Grimm's would be able to convince him because of their close relationship. Meanwhile, Maou and Max arrived at the fancy restaurant where Fred had made a reservation, but Maou started shaving Max's beard, worried that they wouldn't be allowed to enter because of it. The duo was amazed by the fancy food, but Fred called out Maou's disguise, and he thought she had to be a powerful demon in order to have a disguise that's almost indistinguishable from a human, and he was surprised that a dangerous demon like her survived. The duo apologized for the trouble that Xenia had caused, but Fred teased Max for living with two beautiful female demons. However, Max could only wonder what Fred's reaction would be if he saw Maou's real appearance. Max wanted to explain what really happened, but Fred knew that Xenia was not responsible for the explosion. Because of this, Max thanked him and praised him for being a good friend before walking away to leave. However, Fred stopped him, saying that he would need to do something for him to let the matter slide. After hearing this, Max offered to let him have Maou. Maou was upset, but Max refuted that she had to take responsibility for her subordinates' actions. Because of this, Maou couldn't say anything and started undressing. But Fred asked them to sit down and stop messing around, as they needed to have a serious conversation. Fred explained that because of Gamma Republic's terrorist attack, an all-out war is bound to happen. However, Max questioned if Gamma Republic was really behind the attack, also implying that someone was manipulating the situation. Because of this, Fred felt that Max was thinking that he wanted to go to war against the Gamma Republic. So he explained that it was the opposite, and he even threatened Max that he would blame the attack on him and the demons to avoid the war between the kingdom and the Gamma Republic. Maou was really worried, but Max implied that he would move to the Gamma Republic with Maou if Fred kept on trying to drag him into the mess. Because of this, Fred said that he would take it as proof that he had an intent to aid a terrorist organization. However, Max was not threatened at all, and he warned Fred that he wouldn't want to piss off the hero who had slain the demon lord. Because of this, the two started screaming at each other. Max was upset that he was getting dragged into the war, and he said that he would be lucky if Fred and Leo ended up killing each other, as he would finally get some peace. Fred was saying that Gamma Republic wouldn't accept a useless piece of trash like Max on their side, and he was also insisting that he was trying to end the war. Maou had to release her power to stop the two from exchanging blows, and after sensing her strength, Fred asked Max for Maou's identity, but Max refused to answer and decided to leave instead. Fred warned him again, but he just ignored him and told him to pay for everything they ate, so Fred regretted that he didn't poison Max. After returning home, Max's stomach was suddenly in pain, so Maou was worried that he was poisoned. But Fred actually put a laxative on Max's food as payback for the trouble that Xenia had caused them. At the same time, Inigo and her group found out that the kingdom had framed them. Because of this, Leo realized that they couldn't avoid the war anymore, and he promised that he wouldn't let this matter go unpunished. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoy this video, and please subscribe so you won't miss the next part. And just comment down any anime you want to see in this channel.